being forced to turn on my camera for every meeting. For the past 3 years my company has been working from home, and earlier this year they closed down our local office to save money. Now some employees not in my group have been asked to go back into offices, and now all WFH employees are being told to turn on their cameras for all meetings. I asked why and why now. But they say out of respect for the people who do have to go into the office. As someone who doesn't like to be on camera, I feel bummed out about this. Are you remote workers of Reddit forced to turn on your camera for every meeting? How would you feel if you were in my shoes? Not forced. No. But I generally turn on my camera unless I have reason not to. I tend to turn my camera on mostly because I believe it helps communication. I would not like for it to be mandatory. I also find the argument who do have to go into the office to be lacking. So the company knows they're being shitty by forcing people back. But to make it fair, they also have to be shitty towards the WFH people. Dude, you get to work from home, just turn the cam on for a few times a day. PM here. And I can count on one hand the number of times I turned on my camera within the last couple of years. I don't expect people to turn on their cams for my meetings, mostly because I am sharing my screen most of the time in my meetings anyway, and that should be the thing drawing the participants' attention, not my dumb face. Fortunately, engagement has never been a problem. Everyone turns on their camera at my company in meetings where everyone actively participates. If it's the kind of meeting where I'll say 2 sentences at most. Sure. Camera off, but usually on when I speak. None of this is mandatory. But talking in a group without seeing each other is pretty annoying, honestly. Damn, Yell quickly forgot what it was like to be in the office full-time, lol. You're lucky they're not asking you to return to office, which many companies are doing. It helps. It's basic courtesy. Cameras on for smaller-sized meetings I think are fine. Shouldn't be forced, as things happen sometimes where you just need to be off camera. Bigger-sized meetings where my face doesn't matter at all should have them default to be off. If it becomes an issue, they continue to press on. I'd start looking for new employment. Caring about that stuff is weird in my opinion. I find it very exhausting to have every meeting be cameras on. I turn mine on voluntarily for one-on-ones, but not for anything else. It just feels very unnatural to me. To look someone in the eyes, you have to look into the webcam. But then you're not focusing on their body language. So it's harder for the conversation to flow. And if they're not looking directly into their webcam, it doesn't look like they're looking at you either. I assume at least 90 of the people who have their cameras off are either not there or are doing other work in the background. It's pointless to have cameras on. It adds nothing to the conversation and is sometimes a distraction. I have to go into the office sometimes. I don't need to see the other people on camera to feel respected. A lot of businesses are big on work theater, so they expect everyone to put on a show every day, and they'll spew pseudo-scientific nonsense to make their rituals sound worthwhile. I've read there is a big gender difference, that forcing people to turn on the camera adds like 2 hours of work to a woman's day but not a man. The policy itself is sexist. I don't understand why people want to look at each other so badly. Team camera off here. It's dumb, but if the choices were go into the office or turn the cam on, I'm turning the cam on. I am forced, but I'd do it regardless. I think it's important for communication. I don't force my team to turn their cameras on. Unless we're meeting new people, new hire, new team, etc., or if we're meeting stakeholders or higher-ups that also have their cameras on. Never have turned it on in over 3 years. In most of my meetings, people are sharing their desktop, looking at code, etc. If you don't like where you are, you go somewhere else. The company is paying you to be somewhere and work on company problems. If you don't like company instructions, go find another company that aligns with your needs. They're gonna find out you're still in your sweats at 2 p.m. with hot pocket grease on your chin. Aren't they? Nope. And it's pretty much off all the time, but the truth is that some people do appreciate it quite a bit, and it does make it easier for people to understand you and see your authenticity. Especially if you don't already have an established working relationship. Just a swag, but suspect you're like me in that you aren't that best on picking up on those kinda cues. Or rather than it takes more energy. I think it's more important for those in managerial roles to do it. Especially in certain context. In writing this, I feel the need to be a bit more mindful of it in these contexts. We have meetings where camera is required to be on. At my company, people don't care if you have your camera off. Just that you respond when called upon. Tape something over it and say you don't know what is wrong. Cameras on can actually be counterproductive for neurodivergent people. I'm kind of surprised that the responses in this thread are so supportive of cameras on. Generally everywhere I've been is cameras off, except for the try-hards or weirdos who eventually turn them off as well. Generally in larger meetings, director levels will turn theirs on. In which case a couple try-hards will as well. Meaning there will be 5-6 on cameras in a meeting of 100. I turn it on for stand-ups. Maybe for a big meeting. Only one other person on my team does. Honestly, it's not a big deal and a small price to pay for WFH. It's only been required when new people are on. Let's stop making mountains out of molehills and stop making reasons to force RTO. Entitled WFH Tech Worker Traumatized by Request to be Visible During a Meeting Like How 100 of All In-Person Meetings Happen. I avoid turning it on as much as I can. Having cameras on is really annoying and unnecessary because it doesn't benefit your work at all. Not sure why people are in favor of them. There's no work conversation that can't be had just fine over a phone call. The nonverbal communication argument is nonsense. I thought I'd hate turning on my webcam. Then I realized how much I rely on seeing the person's face. Your face gives off a lot of clues. It's great for communicating. It shows confusion, disdain, boredom, engagement. I literally couldn't care less if my camera is on. I will get done up from the neck up any day of the week instead of going into the office ever. This is just someone with a stick up their ass about how everyone should be professional. Either leadership or someone complained and leadership is listening. Super lame. There are all kinds of reasons to leave your camera off. And anyone who thinks forcing people to turn it on will improve culture or communication is an idiot. At best. Not forced. I do so because having a camera on is less cold. If your life is so stress-free that the biggest concern is turning your camera on for the occasional meeting, then we have it pretty good. It's quite literally the least you can do, lol. Meetings with the team's camera on. It's just easier that way and you get to see the expression on the face of your colleagues. It's just nice. All hands. Meetings where I don't need to talk, etc. No camera.